This presentation will look at the opening of America's first college union, Houston Hall, at the University of Pennsylvania in 1894. The University of Pennsylvania was founded in 1740. In 1749, Benjamin Franklin and 24 other trustees purchased the property. In 1751, it opened its doors to gentry and common people, stating that it was an academy of charitable school in the province of Pennsylvania. In 1755, it obtained its collegiate charter, with its first graduating class graduating in 1757 and opening its doors to the first medical school in the United States in 1765. Today, the University of Pennsylvania is a highly respected and one of the most competitive colleges in America. It is home to 24,630 students, with about half of the full-time students being undergraduate and half of the full-time students being graduate professional students. Tuitions and fees at the University of Pennsylvania is over $47,000, with room and board being $16,000. The current mission of the University of Pennsylvania has not fallen that far from that of the 1700s of Ben Franklin and the original 24 trustees. Houston Hall, America's first college union, was designed in 1894, opened its doors in 1896, and changed the campus climate at the University of Pennsylvania drastically. Before we look at Houston Hall and its impact to the University of Pennsylvania, a brief look at college unions and their beginnings. College unions originated in Europe, with the first college union formed as a debating society in Oxford in 1823. Growing in popularity at Oxford, the first college union building was constructed in Europe in 1857. They were originally intended to teach men how to get on with their fellows. Many discussions about debates of the current day were held in college unions. In America, the Harvard Union was the first union, and it was founded in 1880 as a general society and was really more of a debating society and did not have the physical infrastructure of the building at Oxford or the building that was built at the University of Pennsylvania in 1896. At the turn of the 21st century, the union idea expanded across the nation, and it was the Houston Hall and the success at the University of Pennsylvania which led to many other institutions creating common spaces for men to gather and socialize and relax and learn. Houston Hall, original design and purpose. Project was approved in 1894. Doors opened for student use in January of 1896. It was constructed with a gift from a Penn trustee, Henry Howard Houston, in honor of his son, Henry Howard Jr., who had passed away after graduating from the University of Pennsylvania on his trip to Europe. The building was intended as a place for the university to use and for students to pass their time in leisure hours in harmless recreation. It included a billiards room, a bowling alley, trophy room, swimming pool, gymnasium, music room, auditorium, reading room, and many lounges for the men at the University of Pennsylvania to gather. At the time of the opening of Houston Hall, the University of Pennsylvania and higher education in America in general was in the middle of significant changes. The University of Pennsylvania in 1872 had made the decision to relocate its campus and its facilities from downtown Philadelphia to West Philadelphia. This change was necessary due to large enrollment growth and changes the university had for long-term success. However, the 1872 move to West Philadelphia brought with it a lack of many traditions and identity at the new West Philadelphia campus. At the same time of this transition, enrollment grew at the University of Pennsylvania and nationally faster than the growth of the general population of the United States. Leading up to the opening of Houston Hall, the University of Pennsylvania saw a 21% increase of student enrollment from 1875 to 1885, and continued to see great growth from the years of 1890 to 1925. At this time of growth, higher education in America saw tremendous investments, and nearly half of all higher education investments went to buildings and grounds during this period of enrollment growth. Between the years of 1892 and 1909, Penn built 14 new buildings on campus. When Houston Hall opened its doors, its initial responses were extremely positive. One said it was worth all that it cost and more, and its success will probably before many years be duplicated in many other American universities. Early on, 2,000 or more students per day pushed through the doors of Houston Hall and called it home. Many student organizations called it home, and it became the center of all undergraduate and social activities at the university. One of the most significant impacts Houston Hall had to the University of Pennsylvania can still be seen today in today's student government at the University of Pennsylvania. The Houston Club, founded in 1896, was the first student government at Penn. 5 students in 1896 founded this club, and it was responsible for the governance of the activities and the functions of Houston Hall. When Houston Hall opened, the men of Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania, were required to pay $2 per semester to be a member of the Houston Club and participate in activities at Houston Hall. It was that formation from those 5 students of the Houston Club which governed Houston Hall up until 1929, when it transitioned from the Houston Club to campus-wide governance and today's student government at the University of Pennsylvania. Another significant impact was the change that Houston Hall had seen on Greek organizations at the University of Pennsylvania. Greek letter fraternity movement began in the U.S. in the late 1820s, early 1830s. Early fraternities at Penn. The first fraternity at Penn was Psi Epsilon in 1849. There were 8 fraternities on campus in 1890. From the years 1890 to 1920, the fraternity movement at the University of Pennsylvania expanded greatly, and on average, 1 new fraternity was added to campus each year. Most early fraternities did not have traditional fraternity houses. The first house was built in 1897 by Psi Epsilon, but the majority of these new fraternities and these new organizations of men called Houston Hall their home. Without Houston Hall, the fraternity movement at the University of Pennsylvania would not have the traction that it had and would not have seen the growth that it did over the years. In summary, Houston Hall had significant campus impacts, and maybe more importantly, significant national impacts. Houston Hall helped provide Penn the identity that it was missing during the time of transition. As was discussed, the University of Pennsylvania's campus had shifted from downtown Pennsylvania to West Philadelphia and lacked the identity and the purpose that it needed. It was growing at a rapid pace and growing with buildings being built, student populations growing by 20, 30, 40% in 10-year periods, and still had the identity that didn't quite fit. Houston Hall helped provide that identity, helped provide the place on campus, not in the classroom, that students could connect with. Houston Hall also launched student government at the University of Pennsylvania. The Houston Hall governance group led to student government in a democratic way that exists today at the University of Pennsylvania. Had Houston Hall not been founded, it would have been different, and it would have been an interesting path for student government, as they did not have much of a say on campus at the time it was opened. It also helped mold the fraternity movement at Penn. We know that fraternities contribute significantly to higher education, especially in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Houston Hall was home to the majority of the fraternities and organizations on campus. Houston Hall also started the student union movement in America. It was without Houston Hall being first, the student union movement would not have progressed the way that it did in America. A quick look at Houston Hall today. Houston Hall today remains a center of campus activity. It remains a place where student, faculty, staff, alumni, and guests gather for social, recreational, educational, and cultural activities. Houston Hall is part of the Perelman Quadrangle, which includes Irving Auditorium, the Architecture Building, Claudia Kaufman Hall, Iron Gate Theater, and many outdoor spaces. These spaces comprise the majority of event spaces on the University of Pennsylvania's campus. Houston Hall has seen 2 additions and renovations, one in 1963 and one in 2000, to bring it to its current size of over 85,000 square feet. Current amenities include the Houston Market, University Coffee Services, a creperie, Insomnia Cookies, and numerous event spaces and informal lounges. Here are my references, with many of them coming from the University of Pennsylvania's online archive site. Thank you for listening to my presentation about Houston Hall. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the first college union in America.